keys, which is from, we've got from C up to F. So a whole pile of extra notes. That's pretty big. So if you were doing, actually, you know what I could have done? I could have off the chair, that'll work. And then right up to the top we've got F. And once you get up past a certain point, the notes become, they're not as audible, particularly to men over 50, I believe, because your hearing isn't as good. I think a lot of people it's not as audible. And it also just becomes...
It's colour.
It's colour. That's what Wayne calls it at the top. It's colour. So not that I would ever hit the wrong note just to get colour, but in fact, if you did play one of the top notes and it wasn't in the correct chord, you probably wouldn't notice so much, because they're really...
Fiona, I'll explain it a little bit better for them.
Okay,
Because
right. We've got the expert.
it's not very high in terms of the frequency spectrum, because the human auditory system can cope from, say, 15 to 20, 25,000, or say 20 to 20,000 hertz. So, but what happens in music, most of the frequency spectrum that we hear is in this part, the central part, but the brain extrapolates. So you can clearly hear the upper note, and you can go up. Oh, hang on, we've got to make sure we've got the note. F. You can absolutely determine that that is an F, because the brain is filling it in. Some people say that, you know, these extreme frequency spectrums are not, they're out of the human experience, but they're not, because the actual harmonic series is infinite. It's just that we have a limited hearing facility ourselves. And the same goes as you go down into the subcontra octave. So if you take just a note, it's hard to actually say, well, that's definitely E flat. But if you go, but as soon as you put those with it, the harmonics define. It defines the entire spectrum, because the brain is actually working for you to fill in the harmonic series as a natural harmonic series. And in our 9-octave piano, which is 108 keys, we're going even higher, up to the octave above the top C on a standard piano. And it's perfectly audible, particularly if you put the keys in context to the octave below.
So was I incorrect saying that you could put a note in as a top note in a piece of music, and if it's, unless it's actually in that chord, it will.
If it's in that chord, you will definitely hear and you'll place it correctly. But if it's probably out of context, it may not be as evident to people who aren't, aware of intonation as such, because most people don't run around listening to exact frequencies. They're not into tuning, and of course the Western tuning system is an approximated system anyhow. So, but the piano's maximum frequency range, we believe, is A, so A below the bottom C, which is the subcontra, C on the organ pedal board. So you can actually go down another octave for A, so you've got C. Most people's hearing capacity.
That's what you've done for your 100.
That's for the 108 for the 9-octave.
And you only made one of those.
Yes, we have. So a 9-octave keyboard really gives a musician and a composer an amazing sound spectrum.
Absolutely.
And in the modern context, the frequency spectrum is really important because, as Fiona has demonstrated, the sustain in these pianos is quite extraordinary. They're quite low chords, and usually that's very muddy on the standard piano. You can hear a complete separation of the notes, and there's very minimal masking of the frequency spectrum. And that's what you were demonstrating in the previous piece. And it gives you this amazing capacity to, go into the sound with your hearing and just sort of forage around inside it without getting clouded and buried in mud, which is the hallmark of the standard piano. Because as I demonstrated earlier, when the string is held in the same plane in which it's struck, it actually stays predominantly vibrating in that plane. And that then creates this sound so that sorts of weird configurations are going on because of the way it's anchored on the bridge between two pins in a horizontal plane. It's struck vertically and it's pinned horizontally, so that the string then wants to change phase constantly throughout its sustain. So when you've got this kind of very stable so if I do this, if we take like this, that's with the two left pedals pressed. So you get this. As you increase the sustain, becomes really strong. And that's if I take it down. That's just with the left pedal, and this is with the shift pedal. See how the sustain is much stronger? That's because of the shift pedal. So one string is vibrating in sympathy with the other two, and it's vibrating on the counter phase. So it increases the sustain. You see how strong it is. Now, if we take the two left pedals together, we can make the most soft, beautiful sound. You cannot do that on a standard piano. It just will not work.
You can't.
It's an amazing sound. So you have so many different textures with this kind of sound and with this kind of arrangement. These are just completely new pianos. It's unexplored territory. And of course, you're exploring this with your particular style in music.
And I think
out of your way.
I think it was Christmas Joy that I used all of those pedals to get the bell-like qualities. And I played Jingle Bells before, but I didn't use the combination of pedals. So if I was using this, on the album I use all of the pedals. So have a look out for Christmas Joy and really hear the Stuart sound and the different pedaling techniques. What I might do now that Wayne's explained that to you, just for me, just to consolidate everything that Wayne just said, I might do an improvisation where I'm really just using my ear to listen to the harmonics and where the piano's going, and also it gives me a chance to explore the full keyboard. So I'll just do a little bit of an improvisation. Let's see what happens. I wish me luck. Right.